The shuttle docked with a soft thud that felt in his chest. He looked through the small window at the massive station floating in the darkness of space. Station Meridian 7, the most famous training facility in the entire galaxy. And now, for the first time in history, humans were allowed inside. Stood up and grabbed his bag. His legs felt weak, but not from the journey. He was nervous. Every species in the Galactic Coalition thought humans were too young, too wild, too dangerous to trust. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 12 years ago. Most alien civilizations had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. To them, humans were like children who had just learned to walk but wanted to run. "You ready?" asked a voice behind him. Turned to see Sora walking up the aisle. She was the only other human on this shuttle. The only other human accepted into the artifact retriever program. Her dark hair was tied back in a practical knot, and her eyes were sharp and alert. She had spent years studying alien ruins on Earth before the Coalition even knew humans existed. Now she was here to learn how to do it properly. "Ready as I can be," said. They walked together through the airlock and into the station. The corridor was huge. The ceiling rose so high that had to tilt his head back to see it. The walls were smooth and white, covered with symbols from dozens of different languages. None of them were human languages. Humans were too new to leave their mark here. Other recruits filled the corridor. Saw species he had only read about in training documents. There were tall, insect-like creatures with hard shells and clicking mandibles. They moved in sharp, sudden motions like they were always ready to fight. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Their bodies were made of living crystal that caught the light and broke it into rainbows. They communicated through patterns of light that flashed inside their transparent forms. They had soft bodies covered in tentacles. They looked gentle, but had read that they were the most successful artifact retrievers in the galaxy. Looks could be very deceiving. A recruit walked past and clicked his mandibles loudly. It was a sound of disgust. Had learned that much about body language. "Ignore him," Sora whispered. "I am," said, but it was hard to ignore. Every alien they passed looked at them the same way, some with disgust, some with fear, some with a strange kind of pity, like they were looking at animals that did not know they were about to be slaughtered. A voice boomed through the corridor. It came from speakers hidden in the walls, but it also seemed to come from everywhere at once. The translation implant behind's ear turned the alien words into flat, emotionless English. "All new recruits report to Training Hall 7. Your unit assignments will be given. Do not be late. Lateness will result in removal from the program." And Sora followed the crowd. They walked through corridors that twisted and turned in ways that did not make sense to human eyes. The station had been built by engineers, and they did not think in straight lines. Eventually, they reached a massive hall filled with hundreds of recruits from dozens of species. A platform rose at the front of the hall. On it stood a single. He was old. Could tell because his tentacles had lost their color and hung limp and gray around his body. Scars covered his skin. Deep ones. The kind that came from things much worse than accidents. "I am Senior Instructor," they said. His voice was calm but heavy with authority. "I have been retrieving artifacts for 40 years. I have seen things that would break your minds. I have lost friends, students, and parts of myself that will never grow back. I am still here. Most of you will not be." The hall went silent, even the stopped clicking. "Artifact retrieval is not treasure hunting," continued. "It is not adventure. It is the most dangerous job in the galaxy. We go into dead places, places where entire civilizations died. We find the things that killed them, and we bring those things back so they can be studied, contained, and never used again." He paused and let his many eyes sweep across the crowd. When his gaze passed over on Sora, it lingered for just a moment longer than it did on the others. "Some of you are here because you want glory. You will die first. Some of you are here because you want knowledge. You might survive longer. And some of you are here because you do not know why, because something inside you pulled you toward the darkness. His voice dropped lower. Those are the ones I watch most carefully. The unit assignments began. Names were called. Species were grouped together with deliberate care. Notice that no unit had two members of the same species. It was designed to force cooperation, to make recruits work with aliens they did not understand or trust. Unit 17 announced. Recruit Chitter, Recruit Saul, Recruit Tendrilwake, Human Recruit Sara. Felt a cold shock run through him. Two humans in the same unit. That was unusual. He looked at Sara and saw the same surprise in her eyes. They walked to their assigned meeting area. The other three members of their unit were already there. Chitter, was even larger up close. His mandibles clicked rapidly when he saw the humans approach. Saul, did not even turn to look at them. Light pulsed coldly inside her crystal body. Tendrilwake, the young, at least had the courtesy to acknowledge them with a small wave of one tentacle. "So these are the humans," Chitter said. His translation came through harsh and mocking. "I heard your species still fights wars with each other. How primitive." "We are learning," Sora said calmly. "Learn faster," the replied. "I do not want to die because a human made a stupid mistake." Wanted to argue. He wanted to tell that humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and their own nuclear weapons. They were harder to kill than they looked. But he stayed quiet. Words would not change anything. Only actions would. Appeared beside their group. He moved silently for such a large creature. His old eyes studied each of them in turn, but again, his gaze stayed on the humans longest. "Unit 17, he said slowly. "Interesting. The Council wanted to see what would happen if we put two humans together. They think your species is unstable, that you will either destroy each other or destroy everything around you." "And what do you think?" asked. Was quiet for a long moment. Then he leaned closer, and his voice dropped to something almost like a whisper. "I think you are something we have not seen before, and that terrifies me more than any artifact ever could." He turned and walked away, leaving with a feeling he could not name. It was not fear. It was not excitement. It was something in between. Something that told him his life was about to change in ways he could not imagine. 2 months passed faster than expected. Every day was filled with training that pushed his body and mind to their limits. He learned how to scan for energy signatures that meant danger. He learned how to move through unstable structures without making a sound. He learned the 1,000 different ways that ancient technology could kill him if he was careless. The alien members of Unit 17 slowly began to tolerate the humans. Chitter still clicked his mandibles in annoyance whenever spoke, but the clicks were softer now. Saul had started acknowledging Sara with small pulses of light. Progress was slow, but it was real. Learned that respect in the Galactic Coalition was not given. It was earned through actions, through survival, through proving again and again that you deserve to be there. He kept his head down. He worked harder than anyone else in the unit. He did not complain when the training left him bruised and exhausted. Watched everything. The old instructor rarely spoke during training, but his many eyes missed nothing. Sometimes caught the staring at him with an expression that was impossible to read. It made him uncomfortable, like he was being measured for something he did not understand. One morning, gathered Unit 17 in a small briefing room. His gray tentacles moved slowly as he spoke. "You have completed the basic training," he said. "You have learned enough to die slightly slower than complete beginners. Congratulations." Chitter made a sound that might have been a laugh, the found amusing. "Today you will see something that most recruits never see," the instructor continued. "The Vault of Endings. It is not a reward, it is education. You will see what waits for those who are careless. You will see what we are truly fighting against." They followed through corridors that went deeper and deeper into the station. The walls changed from smooth white to rough gray metal. The air grew cold. Noticed that they passed through 7 different security checkpoints. each one required to provide codes, biometric scans, and verbal confirmations. Whatever was in this vault, the Coalition did not want anyone getting in easily. Or getting out. The final door was massive. It was made of a black metal that did not recognize. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly with a purple light. Placed his tentacle against a panel, and the door slowly opened with a deep grinding sound. The vault of endings was bigger than had imagined. It stretched out before them like a cathedral of nightmares. Glass cases lined the walls, hundreds of them, each containing something terrible. Soft blue light illuminated the displays, giving everything an eerie, dreamlike quality. Led them inside. His voice was quiet but clear. Every object in this room has killed. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands, millions. Some have killed billions. These are the most dangerous artifacts ever recovered. They are kept here because destroying them is impossible. The best we can do is contain them. Walked past the displays, his heart beating hard in his chest. He saw a small silver sphere no bigger than his fist. The label said it had devoured an entire star system. 7 billion people gone in an instant. He saw a thin blade made of something that looked like frozen smoke. It could cut through anything. Molecular bonds meant nothing to it. It had been used in a war that left 3 planets as lifeless rocks. Sora stopped in front of a case containing what looked like ordinary seeds, black and wrinkled, like dried beans. "What are these?" she asked. "The hunger seeds," said. "Plant one in soil and it will grow. It will spread. It will consume everything organic on the planet. 3 worlds died before we contained them. We still do not know who created them or why." The tour continued. Each artifact had a story worse than the last. Weapons that drove entire species insane. Machines that stopped time in localized areas, trapping victims in frozen eternities. A crystal that recorded the screams of everyone it killed and played them back forever. Felt sick. This was what they were training to retrieve. These were the things waiting for them in the darkness between stars. Then stopped. They had reached the center of the vault. A single pedestal stood there, raised slightly above the floor. On it rested the simplest object had seen in the entire room. A black cube, small enough to fit in his hand. Its surface was so smooth that it seemed to absorb light itself. No reflections, no shine, just perfect, impossible darkness. "This," said, and his voice dropped lower than had ever heard it, "is the hollow engine." The unit gathered around the pedestal. Even Chitter was silent. Even Saul had stopped her internal light pulsing. Classification, extinction level. Origin, unknown. Age, unknown. Function, unknown. Paused. Every species that has touched it has died. 17 others. Instant cellular collapse. No survivors, no exceptions. The body simply falls apart at the molecular level. Death in less than a second. Tendril-wake the young made a soft sound of fear. "Why is there no case around it?" "Because nothing can contain it," said. "We have tried every material known to the Coalition, every energy barrier, every dimensional pocket. The hollow engine simply passes through them, or it destroys them. It stays on this pedestal because it chooses to stay, as if it is waiting for something." Stared at the cube. His mouth was dry, his hands were trembling slightly, but underneath the fear he felt something else, something strange. Recognition. It made no sense. He had never seen this object before. He had never heard of it before today, but looking at it felt like seeing a face he knew but could not name, like hearing a song he had forgotten. The cube seemed to pull at something deep inside him, something in his bones, something in the electricity of his thoughts. "Touch nothing in this vault," said. The words cut through thoughts like a blade. "Especially this. The cases are alarmed, but the hollow engine has no case. There is nothing between you and death except your own self-control. Do you understand?" The unit responded together, "Yes, Instructor," but could not look away from the cube. and in the back of his mind, he could have sworn he felt something looking back at him. Led them away from the pedestal. The tour continued. More artifacts, more stories of death and destruction. Sara took detailed notes on her data pad, recording everything for later study. Chitter asked technical questions about containment methods. Saul silently observed everything. Followed, but his attention kept drifting back to the center of the vault, to the small black cube on its simple pedestal, to the thing that had killed everyone who touched it. It was calling him. Not in words, not in sounds, in something deeper than that. A vibration in his mind that no one else seemed to feel, a question without language that only he could hear. "What are you?" thought. And for just a moment he felt an answer. Not words, not meaning, just a sense of vast patience, of waiting, of time beyond human understanding. The hollow engine had been waiting for a very long time. And now, perhaps, its wait was almost over. The tour moved to the far end of the vault, was explaining a temporal displacement device, a machine that could trap someone in a single moment forever. The other recruits listened with horror and fascination. Sara was asking questions about how it had been safely recovered. Stood at the back of the group. He tried to focus on the instructor's words, but they sounded distant, muffled, like someone speaking underwater. His attention kept pulling back toward the center of the vault, toward the pedestal, toward the cube. The hollow engine. He could feel it in his mind now, a constant presence, a gentle pressure against his thoughts. It was not painful, it was not scary, it was almost comfortable, like the warmth of sunlight on his face, like the feeling of coming home after a long journey. "Come closer," it seemed to say, though there were no words. "Come see." Looked at the others. They were all focused on. No one was watching him. His feet started moving before he made the decision to walk. One step, then another, then another. He was drifting away from the group like a leaf carried by a gentle current. The pedestal grew larger in his vision. The cube sat there, perfect and dark and waiting. The blue lights of the vault made strange shadows around it, shadows that moved in ways that did not match anything else in the room. Sora's voice cut through the fog in his mind. He stopped walking but did not turn around. "What are you doing?" He did not answer. He could not answer. The cube was so close now, just a few more steps. "Come back here," Sora said. Her voice was tight with fear. "Please." But's feet kept moving. He could hear other sounds behind him now, clicking mandibles, the soft movement of tentacles, an alarm starting to wail somewhere in the distance. None of it mattered. "Human." His voice boomed through the vault. It was not calm anymore. It was filled with raw terror. The old instructor who had survived 40 years of retrieving the galaxy's most dangerous artifacts was afraid. "Step away from the pedestal, now." Reached out his hand. His fingers were steady. His mind was clear, clearer than it had ever been. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew that everyone who had ever touched this cube had died. He knew that his cells should collapse the moment he made contact. He knew all of this. He touched it anyway. His hand closed around the hollow engine. It was warm, warmer than he expected. The perfect black surface seemed to pulse against his palm like a heartbeat. Silence fell over the vault. The alarm stopped. Every being in the room froze, waiting for death, waiting for his body to fall apart like everyone before him. Chitter actually stepped backward, his mandibles clicking in panic. He was preparing for the spray of organic matter that was about to paint the floor. Saul's crystal body flashed with bright, erratic light. Tendrilwake made a high-pitched sound of terror. 1 second passed, 2 seconds, 3. Did not die. The cube grew warmer in his hand, and then it changed. Patterns bloomed across its surface. Not symbols, not writing, something older than language. Geometric shapes that shifted and flowed like living things. Lines that curved in impossible directions. Angles that should not exist but somehow did. felt something rush into his mind. It was not painful, but it was overwhelming. Information flooded through him. Images of stars being born and dying. Civilizations rising and falling like waves on a shore. Time stretching backward and forward in ways that made his human brain struggle to understand. His eyes rolled back, his body went rigid, his mouth opened. And he spoke. But the words were not words. They were meaning itself, pure concepts pouring out of him without language. Every being in the vault understood them perfectly, regardless of their species, regardless of their translation implants. Finally, a species THAT dreams. The voice was his but not his. It came from somewhere deep inside the cube, from somewhere far away and impossibly old. We have waited so long, searched so many, tested so many, none could receive us. None could understand, but you, your kind. You build WORLDS in your sleep. You create REALITIS that do not exist. You imagine the impossible and believe it can be real. His body shook. Light poured from his eyes, his mouth, the spaces between his fingers. The cube was opening something inside him, a door that had always been there but had never been unlocked. The dream is the key. The dream is everything. We left our knowledge for those who could dream, for those who could imagine what we could not say, for those who could see what we could not show. Moved toward slowly, his tentacles were trembling. In 40 years he had never seen anything like this. No one had. "Human," he said softly, "can you hear me?" His head turned toward the instructor. His eyes were still filled with light, but something behind them was still human. Still. "I can hear everything," he whispered. "I can hear the stars dying. I can hear the void between galaxies. I can hear them. The ones who made this, they are so far away, so long gone, but they left something for us." Then the light faded. The patterns on the cube went dark. His legs gave out and he collapsed to the floor. Sora ran to him. She caught his head before it hit the hard surface. The cube rolled from his limp fingers and lay still on the floor, dark again, silent again, but somehow different now, like something inside it had finally been released. "Medical team to the Vault of Endings," said into his communicator. His voice was shaking. "Emergency priority, one human recruit, unknown condition." He paused and looked at the cube lying on the floor. "The hollow engine has been activated." There was a long silence on the other end of the communicator. Then a voice replied, filled with disbelief. "Activated, but that is impossible. Everyone who touches it dies." "Not everyone," said slowly, "not the humans." He looked at its unconscious form, at Sora cradling his head, at the two members of a species that had joined the coalition only 12 years ago, a species that everyone thought was too young, too wild, too primitive. Perhaps they had been wrong. Perhaps the humans were not too young. Woke up in a room made entirely of white light. For a moment, he thought he was dead. Then he felt the cold surface beneath his back, the steady hum of machines around him, the weight of his own body pressing against the bed. He was in quarantine. He tried to sit up, but his arms were too weak. His whole body felt like it had been taken apart and put back together in a slightly different way. Every nerve was sensitive. Every thought was sharp and clear in a way that felt unnatural. "Do not move," said a voice. Turned his head. Sora sat in a chair beside his bed. Her eyes were red like she had been crying. Her hands were shaking slightly. "How long?" managed to say. His throat was dry and rough. 6 hours, Sora replied. "You were unconscious for 6 hours. They would not let me near you at first. They thought you might be dangerous. They thought the cube might have turned you into some kind of weapon." Looked down at his hands. They looked the same as always, ordinary human hands, but he could feel something different inside them, a connection to something vast and distant, like a thread stretching across the universe. "The cube," he said, "where is it?" "Back on its pedestal," Sora leaned closer. What happened in there? What did you feel? He tried to find the words, but human language seemed too small for what he had experienced. It was like trying to describe colors to someone who had been blind their whole life. The concepts did not fit into sentences. They left something for us, he finally said. The ones who made the cube, they were looking for someone, testing species for millions of years, waiting for someone who could receive what they wanted to give. And humans passed the test. Yes, closed his eyes. He could still feel the cube at the edge of his awareness, a quiet presence, a door that was now slightly open. But I do not know why, I do not know what makes us different. The door to the quarantine room opened. A group of beings entered. Recognized, his gray tentacles hanging low with exhaustion. Behind him came several aliens in official robes, coalition scientists and politicians. They looked at with expressions that mixed fear, suspicion, and hungry curiosity. And behind them all came the oldest had ever seen. Her crystal body was clouded with age, and she moved slowly, supported by a floating platform. But the light that pulsed inside her was sharp and bright with intelligence. This is Senior Archivist said. She has studied the Hollow Engine for 200 years. She knows more about it than anyone alive. The old floated towards bed. Her internal light pulsed in complex patterns that his translation implant struggled to interpret. Show me your hand, she said. Raised his hand, studied it for a long moment. She did not touch him. She just looked, her ancient crystal form flickering with thoughts he could not understand. Remarkable, she finally said. No cellular damage, no molecular disruption. You touched the engine and lived. In 2,000 years of study, I never believed this was possible. Why? Sora asked. Why did it kill everyone else but not him? Turned her attention to Sora. Come with me, all of you. There is something you must see. They moved to a larger room filled with screens and displays. Activated a projection that showed the hollow engine floating in the center of the space. Data streams surrounded it, filled with information that could not read. The hollow engine was recovered 70,000 years ago, began. It was found inside a derelict ship drifting in deep space. The ship was older than any civilization we have ever discovered, older than any species that currently exists in the coalition. She manipulated the display. Images appeared of different aliens touching the cube. Each one collapsed immediately. Each one died in less than a second. For 70,000 years, we have been trying to understand it. Every species has attempted to interact with it. All have failed. We believed it was simply a weapon, a trap left by a dead civilization to kill anyone who found it. But it is not a weapon, said. He did not know how he knew this. He just did. No, Slight pulsed with something that might have been excitement. It is an interface, a key, a door to something vast, but the door requires a specific kind of mind to open it, a mind that can process information in ways that most species cannot. She turned to face directly. When we analyzed your neural patterns during the event, we discovered something unique about human brains. You dream. All species dream, one of the coalition officials said dismissively. It is basic biology. No, replied firmly. All species have periods of unconscious brain activity, memory processing, biological maintenance. These are not true dreams. True dreams are something else entirely. She looked at the humans. When you sleep, your minds create entire realities that do not exist, worlds with their own rules, stories with characters and events that never happened. You experience these false realities as if they were real. You believe in them while they are happening. Sora nodded slowly. We have always done this. It is just part of being human. No other known species does this, said. We have studied thousands of intelligent species. None of them create impossible realities inside their minds. None of them imagine things that cannot be and believe in them completely. Her light pulsed brighter. This ability, this strange human capacity for imagination, is exactly what the hollow engine was designed to find. Felt a chill run down his spine. They were looking for dreamers. Yes, the beings who created the engine wanted to pass on their knowledge, but their knowledge was too vast for direct transmission. It could not be stored in any normal format. It had to be received by a mind that could imagine the impossible, a mind that could build new realities from raw information. The room was silent. The coalition officials looked at each other with expressions of shock and concern. "What exactly is stored in the engine?" asked. His form dimmed slightly. Everything. The complete knowledge of a civilization that existed millions of years ago. Scientific discoveries, philosophical insights, technology beyond anything we have ever imagined. It is all there, waiting to be accessed by someone who can dream it into understanding. She turned back to, "And now the door is open. The engine has bonded with you. It will respond to no one else." "We cannot allow this," one of the officials said. "The humans are too young, too unstable. We should take the engine, study it, find another way." "There is no other way," replied calmly. "And you cannot take the engine. Watch." She gestured to a screen showing the vault. A technician approached the hollow engine with a containment device. The moment he touched the cube, it went completely dark, lifeless, dead. Then entered the room. Even on the screen from far away, the cube began to glow. "It has chosen," said. "It has finally found what it was looking for. And whether the coalition likes it or not, that choice belongs to the humans now." Looked at Sara, she looked back at him. They were both thinking the same thing. 12 years ago, humanity discovered they were not alone in the universe. They joined a coalition of ancient species who viewed them as children, as primitives, as dangerous newcomers who did not deserve their place among the stars. And now, for reasons no one fully understood, an artifact older than the galaxy itself had chosen humanity as its heir. The Coalition Council chamber was the largest room had ever seen. It was a perfect sphere floating in space, its walls made of transparent crystal that showed the stars in every direction. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the curved seats that rose in rings around the central platform. Their voices created a constant hum of translation data that made his implant work overtime. He stood on the central platform with Sora beside him. Below them, the hollow engine floated on a small gravity platform. It glowed softly whenever looked at it. "The human must be studied," a representative was saying. His mandibles clicked rapidly with anger. "His brain should be scanned. His body should be analyzed. The secret must be extracted and shared with all species." "I agree," a politician added, light pulsing harshly inside her form. "The humans have been part of the coalition for only 12 years. They are not ready for this responsibility. They are too aggressive, too unpredictable." More voices joined in. Some demanded that be contained. Others wanted the humans expelled from the coalition entirely. A few called for even darker options that made blood run cold. Through it all, sat silent in the observers section. His many eyes watched everything, but he did not speak. Finally, when the arguments began to repeat themselves, Senior Archivist raised her ancient crystal form. "May I speak?" The chamber fell silent. Even the most powerful politicians respected its age and wisdom. "I have studied the hollow engine for 200 years, she said. "In that time I watched 17 species try to interface with it. I watched 17 species die. Their deaths. I analyzed their failures, and in all that time I never understood why." She floated toward the center of the chamber, her old body moving slowly but with purpose. "Now I understand. The engine was not killing them, it was testing them, and they failed. Not because they were weak, not because they were unintelligent, but because their minds could not do what the engine required." She turned to face the assembly. The beings who created this artifact were millions of years more advanced than any of us. They could have stored their knowledge in any format. Data crystals, quantum matrices, neural templates, but they chose something different. They chose to wait for a species that could dream. Why? Someone asked from the upper rings. Why would dreaming matter? Because their knowledge cannot be understood through normal thought, replied. It is too vast, too complex, too strange. It must be experienced, it must be imagined, it must be dreamed into existence inside a living mind. She looked at. The humans do not just process information, they create, they imagine, they build impossible things inside their heads and believe in them completely. This is the gift that evolution gave them, and this is the gift that the engine was designed to find. The chamber erupted in arguments again, but this time a new voice cut through the noise. Stood. The old walked slowly down the steps toward the central platform. His gray tentacles dragged behind him like the train of a ceremonial robe. When he reached the floor of the chamber, he turned to face the assembly. I told this human to touch nothing, he said. His voice was calm but carried to every corner of the sphere. He disobeyed. He walked past me. He ignored my warnings. He reached out his hand and grabbed the most dangerous artifact in the known galaxy. He paused and let the silence grow heavy. And that is exactly why the engine chose him. The representatives shifted in their seats, continued. I have been an artifact retriever for 40 years. I have survived because I am careful, because I follow rules, because I never touch anything without analyzing it from every possible angle. He looked at. The humans are not like us. They are reckless. They are impulsive. They act before they think. We have mocked them for this. We have called them primitive. We have said they do not belong among us. His old eyes swept across the assembly. Perhaps we should have been paying attention instead. Perhaps their recklessness is not a weakness. Perhaps it is exactly what the universe needed. A species willing to reach into the darkness and grab what they find there. A species that does not accept that some things are impossible. He turned back to, you were warned. You touched it anyway. And because of that, a door that has been locked for millions of years is now open. The chamber was silent. Even the most vocal critics had nothing to say. Finally, the prime speaker of the council rose. She was an ancient being of a species did not recognize. Her form shifted constantly, never settling into a fixed shape. The council will deliberate, she announced. But I believe the outcome is already clear. The hollow engine has made its choice. We can either accept that choice or spend the next 1,000 years fighting against something we do not understand. The meeting ended. The representatives filed out slowly, many of them casting strange looks at as they passed. Some were hostile, some were afraid, but a few, just a few, looked at him with something that might have been hope. Hours later, stood alone in a small chamber with the hollow engine. Sara waited outside. The coalition had granted her clearance as his translator and handler, recognizing that the humans needed to work together. The cube floated before him, pulsing with soft light. Patterns moved across its surface like thoughts given visible form. Reached out, not to grab it this time, just to touch it gently with his fingertips. The connection opened instantly. Information flowed into his mind, but it was not overwhelming anymore. It was controlled, organized, like a library waiting for him to choose which book to read. He saw the beings who had created the engine. They were not physical creatures. They had transcended their bodies millions of years ago, becoming something he could not fully understand. Pure consciousness, pure thought, pure dream. They had explored the universe for longer than most stars had existed. They had learned everything there was to learn. And when they finally decided to move on, to leave this reality behind for something else, they had faced a choice. They could take their knowledge with them and let it disappear forever, or they could leave it behind for someone worthy to find. They chose to leave it. But the knowledge was too vast for normal minds, so they built the hollow engine, a key that would only work for those who could dream, those who could imagine the impossible and believe in it, those who could take raw information and transform it into understanding. They had waited millions of years for the right species to evolve. And finally, on a small blue planet orbiting an average star, humans had appeared, a species that spent a third of their lives creating impossible worlds inside their heads, a species that told stories, that invented things that had never existed, that dreamed of futures they could not see and then built them anyway. The perfect inheritors. Felt tears on his face. He did not know if they were from sadness or joy or something else entirely. "What do you want us to do?" he whispered to the engine. The answer came not in words but in images, blueprints, instructions, a vision of something vast and beautiful that humanity was meant to build. The door to the chamber opened. Sora stepped inside. "What is it?" she asked. "What did you see?" Turned to her. His eyes were still wet, but his face held an expression she had never seen before. Wonder, terror, fierce determination, all mixed together. "They left instructions," he said. "The beings who made this, they want us to build something." "Build what?" He reached out and touched the engine again. This time he pulled Sora's hand toward it as well. For a moment, just a moment, she felt what he felt. She saw what he saw. Infinite corridors of knowledge stretching in every direction. The accumulated wisdom of a species older than most stars. And at the center of it all, a blueprint for something magnificent. Something that would change the universe forever. "Everything," said when the vision faded. "They want us to build everything, and they have been waiting a very long time for someone who could dream it first." Outside the station, the stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere out there, the ancient beings who had created the hollow engine had moved on to whatever came next, but they had left their legacy behind. And humanity, the young and reckless species that had stumbled into the stars just 12 years ago, had been chosen to receive it. The universe would never be the same. Looked at Sora. She looked back at him. They were just two humans standing in a room on a space station, holding the key to everything. "Ready?" he asked. Sora smiled. It was the smile of someone about to step off a cliff, not knowing if they would fall or fly. "We are human," she said. "We were born ready." They reached for the engine together, and the dreaming began. Everything was about to change. Perhaps they were exactly what the galaxy had been waiting for. The training had begun.